Alright, good morning everyone. Just wanted to take a quick look at my yard before we start a project. So it's my front yard. You can see I got a gate laying down there. This is one of my driveways coming in. And we're going to put a post for fence today. So I pretty much just wanted to show you how it's looking before we put the fence post in. For you guys and also for, for me. So fence is going to come from up there, run in to the gate, run down here along this, and then go along the box right there, and then come down to the other end of my front yard. So there's my house. It's funny, I feel like I'm kind of talking with an accent. I don't know if that's forced or natural. It's weird. Corner post here, and then we're going to run it behind there. So this little rock outcropping garden bed's on the outside, and then up to this side, and there's going to be another gate. Now my original plan was to get a tractor auger and use a tractor auger to dig some holes and then put the posts in, level them out, and concrete them in. But I had a fence guy. First post going in. Leveling it. There we go. There we go. Well, this is step number 3 on the fencing project. Step number 1 was getting the pipe and paying somebody to pound them into the ground instead of concreting them in, which certainly was well worth it. Step number 2 was cutting the saddles in them to fit on there, which totally sucked. Using a grinder or a cut saw just sucks either way. Step number 3 is welding those cut saddles onto the posts. So let me get to it. So you see that popping and that sparking, looks like firecrackers right there on the pipe. That's because this pipe is magnetic. And magnetic pipe, even for experienced welders, is a pain to weld. And I'm certainly not an experienced welder. This is like my second time welding. With just watching a YouTube video and some instruction from a good friend. Yeah, let me show you my welds. Now, I'm sure there's hundreds of welders out there that are going to tell me 500 things I'm doing wrong. But for dirty, rusty, magnetic, old drill pipe, all I needed to do is stay on. And as you can see, those pipes aren't welded and they're just wedged in there. So they're pretty solid as it is. So as long as I get a little bit of a weld on them, they'll be good. But this is right there. Stupid sun. Anyways, yeah. Let me go down here and show you some of my first ones. You can see the pipes that got magnetized, they're just much uglier than some of the ones that aren't. Like, see, this side welded okay. This one was magnetized. Okay. Yeah. Some of these down here are a little bit better. No good welds really, but good enough to hold the pipe on. Some caps. Anyways, welding is a skill for sure. For all you welders out there, congrats, because you do good stuff. It's not as easy as touching a welder to a piece of metal and it works. There's a lot of settings and knowledge and dangers that come along with welding, but when you're homesteading, surviving, sometimes you just got to do it on your own. So wish me luck. Let me get back to finishing the fence. Alright, this first section is not pretty, but it is complete and it will do the job. Look at the fence line. That fence line is all over the place. So when I saddled these pipes, because of the angles and everything, I did a horrible job. I just added pieces of metal and welded them together. Yeah, it's ugly, but like I said, these are wedged in there really tight, and they've got some semi-okay welds on there. If I ever get a different welder, or year down the road it pops off, maybe I'll be better at welding by then, who knows. Or I can just weld it back up there. But step 3, welding fence is done. Grinding. Next will be painting, and then we got to start the fence on it. The never-ending homestead project, fencing. All right, so here we are again doing fencing. So fencing, man, super expensive. It's pretty hard sometimes, and it's just never ending on the homestead. Whether you're putting in new fences or repairing old fences, this project just never ever goes away. So you can see over here that I've got this fence strung up. You can take a closer look at it. Come on with me. So there we go. See, I got the fence all strung up right there. Looks pretty good. All the way down. I still have to secure it to the post, but I've done stretched it. And it's pretty much ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this side over here. I've already done my garden fence, but I wanted to show you some more details about how you're going to put this fence up. So I got my poles in, got them welded, got them painted. Now it's ready to stretch the fence. So first thing you do is you take your roll, get behind the camera here, take your roll of fence and then you just unroll it. So I've unrolled it. Sometimes making the turns when you're unrolling, when it's a big roll, is a little bit up against the fence. That's kind of what I've done here. And all the way down. So I'm going to pull it around this corner. So we got the corner back there, you got this corner here, but then when it goes off to the left, I can't stretch it there, otherwise I'd be trying to force it in. So I'm going to tie off to this post in the back. Tie off to this post in the back. So there's the roll. I'm going to cut it there like I did the other side. Okay, so that was step one. Step two is you've got to remove all of the vertical wires out. See, I cut them off these right here. Cut all these vertical sections out to give me this, I don't know, maybe about 16 inches of wire. I'm going to stand this up and I'm going to wrap it around the pole and tie it on. That'll be step number two. I basically just cut those vertical wires out, a small set of bolt cutters, and I'm just going to use pliers to wrap it around the edge here. This T-post was just to hold it in place so it wouldn't roll back up. I was unrolling it, but it's going to come in handy right now because when we put this fence up, we want it to stay right there. So see if I'm quick enough to grab that. Barely. Losing some speed. Alright, that's going to hold it up good enough for us to get tied on. Now when you're tying this on, you've got this chain. I don't want to tie this chain to the post, so I got to pay attention. I did it in the back by mistake. And also what you do is you have your vertical line here. You're going to want to keep it, you know, as parallel to this post as you can. If it's crooked, then you're going to be crooked all the way, because at the end you're going to pull this fence, so you want this tie on to be straight. So I'm going to basically take this, need some more space. Make sure that, now if my wire doesn't come all the way around, I'll just cut one more vertical section out, which it looks like it does pretty decent. Yeah, it'll be fine. Alright, so my vertical wire is going to be centered on this pole all the way down. That's the plan anyways. We'll see how well it works out. So the top and the bottom wire are pretty thick. They're a lot harder to twist on. So I normally set my place with the next wire down. It's a little bit easier to work with. So I got my vertical wire right here in the center. Grab this wire, pull it around. These pliers, grip it, and then just twist it over like that. And push it down. And you just keep twisting it around this wire. Get you some shoulder action in there. When you get a couple twists around, you can grab the whole twist with your pliers and just crank it down like that. It'll cinch it up nice and tight. Don't pull it too tight, you will break your fence line. You will snap your fence wire and then you'll be hating life. If you got little kids, things that are always gonna be grabbing on the fence, make sure you hide those sharp ends or you just grind them off. My kids are old enough to know better, so if they poke themselves, it's on them. All right, here's my chain. Do not want to wrap that inside there, so it's going to go nicely right underneath that. Around. Whoop. Well, now. So I try to pull the slack out right here and then hold it in place with my thumb. And then grab it right underneath the wire, twist it over the top, push it back through, grab it again, wind it over. I believe there's a tool that you can buy at the store for doing this, but I don't have it. And I didn't feel like buying it. Or sometimes you just don't have the money to, you know, you want to spend your money on other things. Like more fruit trees. Alright, let me bring you over, give you a closer look at what I'm doing. Sorry about the volume control today, it's windy and I got my windsock on. But I do want to give you a little bit of a closer look at how this is going. So you can see what it is twisted around right there, keeping my vertical line at the center of that pole. That's what we're going to try to continue to do here. I'll show you the next couple runs. Alright, so here we are. Keep your vertical line center, we'll push that around. Push it under there. Alright, so just gonna grab this, give it a little pull. Pull too hard, it will start pulling your vertical line off center. But once you get it there, grab it right here, force it over, push it back through, grab it underneath again, twist it over. All with a standard set of pliers, which you probably have laying around the house. You don't need that fancy little tool. However, with that being said, I kind of wish I did have it. But anyways, it is what it is. Okay, so you can see that it's still a little loose. Once you get a couple spins around, you just put your pliers around the whole thing, and right there turns it and it cinched it up nice and tight. Now this is what you got to deal with the little kids or dogs. They're barking at the fence, they're going to catch themselves on that. In this case, I don't have little kids, don't plan on having any anytime soon, so I'm going to leave mine either pointed downwards or outward. Because if there's anything trying to get in, then maybe it deserves to get scratched. Alright. So that's basically how you tie up your fence. Now I'm going to continue tying the rest of this up. Once we get this tied up, it will be secured and we can go to the other side and stretch this fence because it ain't coming off this post. Now give me a few minutes. Who's this? Alright, so a little work. Or here's a look at the final. So it's pretty good on center. So now it's time to pull the fence. So let's go down to the other side and take a look-see. Okay, so here we are at the other end of the fence. This is where we're going to be pulling all the slack out of the fence and tying it onto this pole right here. So what we got to do is we got to take this roll, get it out of the way, and we've got to cut our fence. We've got to cut this fence to make it easier to pull. So I don't want to cut it too far. I'm trying to save as much fence as I can. We're going to be pulling a lot of slack out of this fence. But what I wanted to show you was my homemade fence puller. Now you can buy a fence puller at the store. or you can just get a 1x6 or 1x4 like this, drill some holes in it. So I've got just randomly placed, so I got a basic straight line and a couple in the back of these bolts. They go through, right? So what I did when I made it was I had these two boards together like that. So this is basically 4 foot tall, just like the fence that I'm pulling. And I put these boards together, drilled those holes in there, put the bolts through, and I bought wing nuts. So what I'm going to do is put these bolts right here, slide them through the fence, put this on the other side, and tighten it down onto the fence. And that way I can grab onto this wood to pull it evenly. Now the fence pullers that you buy in the store, they'll typically have three hooks on them with an eye bolt connected to the 3 hooks. Well, you can't put the 3 hooks on the fence because it'd just pull those 3 little sections and it gets all crooked and messed up. So you either have to thread a rod through there to hook the 3 hooks onto, so it's pulling evenly across the fence. So it just seemed like buying the piece and then threading rod or putting something in there was too much work. I just made that. It was pretty cheap, a couple bucks in bolts. So let me show you how I'm going to put it on. Well, I need to pull as much slack out of this fence as I can so I can see where I need to cut. That's what I got to do. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get any slack out, but let me see if I can. So I got about 2 feet out of it. So what you want to do is when you put your board or your fence puller on, you want to put it in front of this post because you want the tension to pull, and you want to have some space in the back where you can cut the wires and wrap them around, and then you'll release the tension. And it gives, it comes out about 1/2 inch to 1 inch. So you want to pull it a little bit tighter than what the final product is going to be. But if you mess up and you put your puller too close and it pulls right here, you're not going to be able to tie around the post. Or if it's on the back side of the post, when you cut your wire to wrap it around, it's going to because it's going to be under tension. So you want to cut behind the tension. So I got a funny feeling that this is going to pull in, I don't know, maybe a foot or 2. So I just want to make sure that I'm not going to. So if I place this here, this board, my fence puller here, and then we pull and it comes in this far, that'd be perfect. If I place my board here and we pull the tension and it comes here or over behind the post, it's going to be a bad thing. I want it technically as close to here at the end as possible, but I don't want it to be too close. Then I have to undo it all and do it over again. So I'm feeling like this is going to be a nice spot to put it. So because it's 4 feet tall, I try to put this in the bottom square, that in the top square, and every other one next to it. So I'm going to go ahead and place this here. And I want to make sure that they're all in the same section. We want this to be straight. So that is right there. So they're all in the same section. Then I grab this board. This way. Line it up. Okay. Wing nuts and washers acquired. Now let's get these bad boys on here. Okay, so now I got the fence puller attached to the fence. I'm going to take a chain with a hook on each side of the chain, wrap it around the bucket and through the fence. The one thing that you got to think about when you're putting this chain on is how you're going to tie. So I'm going to be wrapping around the inside, so I want my chain to be on the outside of the fence, along the outside of the fence line. If if I put it on the inside and try to pull, it's gonna get all messed up around the pipe. So it sounds like common sense. I'm only mentioning it because I've done it before and it's just been frustrating. You have to undo it and redo it. But make sure it's on the outside of the fence when you're pulling. So let me get to that right now. So I'm gonna take you over there, show you the fence work, or the chain work. All right, and then we'll pull. So your chain needs to be long enough to go around the bucket of your tractor. You want to make sure that you position it right on your tractor. So I think that's a good spot. So this piece is around the top of the bucket. So I like to put it through the second hole right here. Remember, so my chain is on the outside of the fence, not pulling from the inside because it's going to get all messed up. So I put it through and then hook it back to itself. There we go. This one is coming from underneath the bucket, so it's going to go down here around the bottom, and it's also going to go, so I got slack. I need to pull out some slack. There we go. And I put it through the second one as well. And hook it to itself. Just like that. Okay? Just hop on the tractor and pull it. These will level out. If I need to adjust it, I tilt the bucket to pull the top or the bottom tighter. That's pretty much it. Get to it. So I just went around and shook the fence, and where it was caught on the ground, unhooked it from the ground and kind of wiggled out some of the slack. It's pretty tight all the way around. I'm going to pull it maybe 2-3 more inches tight, stop the tractor, and then attach it to the post. Take a look-see. So look at that, it got pretty close, but that's just about perfect. So for me to be able to wrap around, if this was here it'd be a problem, or back there on this side it'd be a problem. So that's, see how this side is the loose side, tension's on this side, so that allows me to be able to wrap these around here. So it's pretty good. That's pretty tight if you ask me. Looking nice. Look at that fence line. Oh yeah. So you have to keep in mind it's gonna lose about a 1/2 inch of tightness once I release the tractor, because I'm gonna tie those wires to the post. But see, farther down here it's getting a little loose, but still really nice. It looks really good, so it's gonna work out. Okay. So what we got to do now is we have to tie around this post. So we got to cut back here so we have the wire to wrap around. So on these larger posts right here, I need at least 4 sections. So I'm thinking this section is gonna get cut off. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't want to cut yourself short. because if you don't have enough wire to wrap around, your fence is already pulled tight. You're kind of screwed. So make sure that you have enough. I'm thinking that this is going to be just fine right here to wrap around. That's where I'm going to cut. And if you're not sure, you can cut one out. Yeah, like I'll cut this one out right here. So I'm cutting the vertical wires off. And you don't have to worry because this side is not under any tension. The tension is all on the other side of this puller right here. So don't be afraid about this wire coming in and snapping or anything like that. Not gonna happen. Alright, so I cut my one wire out right there. Basically you want to make sure, yeah, look, it goes around easily enough to go through there and tie on. So that's where we're gonna go with that one right there. I don't think, I probably could come in one section, but I don't want to be that short, so finish cutting the rest of this off, get it out of my way. This roll will be for the rest of my fence. Get out of the way. Now I just got to cut all these vertical wires off. No need to bore you with all this nonsense. So, okay, so I've got it pulled tight. I got the verticals cut off, and what you see here is just the wire that I got to wrap around. It's exactly the same way as I did on the other side, so I'm not going to bore you with this footage. But what I did want to mention is you don't need a tractor to pull the fence tight. You can use a come along. All you need is bring a truck over with a hitch, hook the come along to the hitch. You're still going to need your upper connection point and a lower connection point, so like a long chain with two hooks on it is still going to be required. You can't just wrap the come along around the center because it won't pull evenly. So a good chain like this with two connections is great. You can put the come along around the center of the chain and then pull it. There's also a tree back there right in line with the fence. I could have wrapped the chain around the fence and still used the come along to pull it. But yeah, and you also don't need a fancy fence puller. You just get yourself some 1x6s, drill some holes in with some wing nuts and bolts, and there you go. There you have it. You pull your fence nice and tight. So let me get to finishing this and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so I got it all tied up, but there is two wires, one right here and one at the bottom where this chain is in the way. Makes it difficult to wrap it around and tie it. So I'm gonna go ahead and release the pressure. You'll see how much this moves forward. These are gonna hold the fence on, and then we'll remove the board and finish tying these up. So there you have it. It didn't move very much at all. But so that's it. The fence pull and the tractor is off, but you can see the gap here is different. So you got that sway in the fence. But that has to do with the fence puller and how I tied it on at the other end and how I tied it on at this end as well. Kind of want to make sure that you get it tied on straight just like the other side, or that happens. It's not the end of the world. It might look a little off to some people, but for me it's just keeping my dogs in the yard. It'll be just fine. Then all I got to do is remove this wood piece and then tie that on. So let me get to it. All right, ladies and gents, here's the finished product. You can see that the gap kind of fluctuates there and the fence looks a little wavy, but it's not too bad. But that goes to show you the importance of when you're tying those on to make sure that it's all straight, because under tension any loose spots are going to pull tight and it's going to make the fence wavy. But yeah, it is done. So let's walk the fence line. All right. It's looking all right. It's looking pretty good. So probably gonna have to raise this corner up here a little bit. There might be a slight gap on the bottom, but I can fill that in with rocks or dirt. So not too shabby. That's because of the angle. And if you know, it's not perfectly level. I didn't want to level the ground. I wanted it to kind of flow with the ground. But yeah, no worries. And then back to where we started over here on the first pole. And you can see that that's still relatively straight. There's a little wiggle in there, but not too bad. All in all, pretty basic fence pulling. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the fence. And if you're homesteading, I know you got never-ending fence projects just like me. Till next time.